Hello, and welcome to Recapping with Delora
and Ashley.
Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Recapping Podcast.
Also, rate, review, and subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast platform. We're on all the things.
We want to hear your thoughts on the movies and shows we review.
Leave us a comment on Apple Podcasts or our YouTube channel, and we will read them during the show.
Or reach out to us on social media. We love talking all things entertainment and pop culture with you.
Thank you guys so much for listening.
Thank you.
All right, Delora, we are back. New week, new recap. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm good. Interested to talk about this 2024 remake we're going to get into today, because I had not, before we decided to do this picture, seen the original. So I went into this movie cold. That is Roadhouse, starring the Jake Gyllenhaal. Like I said, 2024 remake, available currently to watch on Amazon Prime. Delora, it set records. It is a record-breaking picture for Amazon. Scored 50 million viewers over his first 2 weekends, making it the biggest opening for an Amazon MGM Studios produced film ever.
Wow.
And I remember the headlines coming out before this that the director was going to boycott the South by Southwest premiere because he was so upset that this was not getting a theatrical release. Now, he still ended up showing up, but I just find it interesting that he felt so strongly, and yet it still had such a stellar performance for the streamer. So hopefully he sleeps a little bit better at night now. But quick summary, ex-UFC fighter Dalton takes a job as a bouncer at a Florida Keys roadhouse, only to discover that this paradise is not all it seems. Cast: Jake Gyllenhaal as Elwood Dalton, Jessica Williams as Frankie, Daniela Melchior as Ellie, Billy Magnuson, who I never really like in anything, as Ben Brandt.
Always the bad guy.
Or just slimy. I just never like him.
He was the bad guy from the Aladdin remake too. So he always plays like, that douchey character.
Yeah, someone you're not rooting for. Conor McGregor in his film debut.
Was this his debut?
This was his debut as Knox. Yeah. Hannah Love Lanier as Charlie, and Joaquim de Almeida as Sheriff, aka Big Dick. There were moments I'm like, y'all are so unserious. Like,
yes.
I just can't even. Reviews, Delora. Rotten Tomatoes, 59% critic score, 54% audience score, and 86% of Google users gave this film a thumbs up. What is your grade, if any, for Roadhouse?
I told you before this recap that I don't know if I got it, because I'm hanging heavy with the Rotten Tomatoes crowd right now, and I don't feel comfortable giving that grade, just because, as a caveat to the Rotten Tomatoes, I understand this is an action film, so I don't expect the same caliber of movie. Comparing it to like past lives, I don't expect you to do that. You know what I mean?
Right. Everything's not going to be Oscar worthy.
Exactly. However, comparing this to other action films that I enjoy, i.e. Bad Boys, I don't know. You can pick any of them really, because it just does not compare. The tone of the film was confusing. Like, were we telling jokes or not? Like,
yes, we were.
Gyllenhaal, the straight guy, and everybody else was like hamming it up. You know what I mean? It just wasn't very clear. Visually, in terms of direction, I thought it was very gripping how he shot those fight scenes. And there was also a car accident in the film that was very riveting in how it was shot. So I will give kudos to that. And I'll also give kudos to Jake Gyllenhaal's body.
Yeah.
don't want to be awful. Um, I was mouthing to Ashley here, not so much the face. I think when it comes to Jake,
You're
you
calling him a
know,
butterface, essentially.
girl, yes.
Well, that's how I felt about Craig. So Daniel Craig for years.
Shut the front door.
Yes, that's exactly how I feel about Daniel Craig.
Oh, wow. I love me some Daniel Craig.
I know Jake Gyllenhaal looks better than him to me, but it's just me.
Wow. Wow.
Well, me and Taylor Swift.
All right, that's where I am, Ashley. It's an A. How about you?
Okay. It's a C plus for me. I actually enjoyed this the first time I even watched it. Granted, it got really violent and I don't like gratuitous violence. Like I just watched Dune 1 and 2. I went to theaters and yes, I sat there for 3 hours. One of the things that I
Wowzer.
think I enjoy about Dune is that they don't focus on the grotesqueness that you can focus on with violence, right? The open wounds and stabs and guts and blood. That's just not I don't enjoy that. Now, given I did watch Game of Thrones, I understand the conundrum, but I don't love it. So
Yeah.
so I did think it really got super violent, especially towards the end, but I was very interested to see what they were going to do with this. Like I said, I had never seen the original until Monday when I watched it. So I didn't even really know the story or what was happening. So I was just, I was along for the ride. I'm like, who is this guy? What is this all about? Obviously, we're heading down to Florida, so the tropical backdrop kind of gives you the illusion of beauty.
Mm.
And you didn't necessarily know just how crazy it was going to get at first. At least I didn't. So I was down for the ride. I enjoyed Conor McGregor. I thought he was ridiculous in
Yeah,
this character.
I agree. I was actually pretty impressed now that you said that this was his first role. He played that manic, crazy guy very well. He needs to be on season 2 of The Gentleman or something.
That's a great casting. I definitely think that this for me I can understand why people gravitated towards it in terms of kind of being seeming like a big picture film, but I wouldn't have run to go see this in theater. So I think it did a good job for
No, not at
Amazon.
all. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
All right. Well, spoiler alert, we're going to get into the good after my spiel. Delora, you said you have not seen the original 1989 version starring the Patrick Swayze, but you wanted to
Yes.
see it.
I just for reference, I didn't have time ultimately. But fun fact, I was very close to touching him one time. Patrick Swayze. We
Is
were
that
in
right?
Yeah, we were in Las Vegas at the Bellagio and we were walking around on the first floor. And then all of a sudden, these large bodies were walking very fast. And in the middle was Patrick Swayze. I was like, it's Patrick Swayze. And we were like, hello. And he like looked over, but he was like in a hurry and it's like one of those, hi. I was like, that's Patrick Swayze.
That's
He
so
was
random.
so random. He was such a petite man. Like I
Mm.
think I was taller than him, and at that age, I think I was like maybe 18 years old or something like that.
That's that
So
that's that graceful ballerina body that he had.
yes, exactly.
Because let
Exactly.
me tell you guys, those of you who have not seen the original, one of the biggest differences to me between the original and this one is some of the physicality, right? Like this movie is
Yes.
so physical. The first one, Patrick Swayze was so much more of like a lover boy. Like he got his hands dirty a little bit, but not to this extent.
But
You know
he
what
did
I'm
a lot of
saying?
kicking in the first. I do know
And there were
that.
a lot of knives. Like there was a lot of knife play. There is some in this, but there was a lot of knife play. And then he also like he had a real love interest like this hit some in this, but he had I mean, there was some stuff. So he was doing his thing in the original. He was doing his thing. It was cheesy as well. Probably
I
any
mean, 1989.
1989 movie you watch today is gonna seem cheesy, but it was funny. So I get
Yeah.
why the tone may seem a little off because they were probably trying to play up some of that cheesiness and funniness that you would have gotten from the original. For them, it was like you're trying to kind of give us Marvel humor, but without enough lead up to it.
Yes,
You know what I'm saying?
exactly.
Like you want
It was
action with like that wink
unclear.
wink. So
Yeah.
I get it. So to start the movie, we have some down and dirty club fighting. What's up, Post Malone, who makes an appearance in this film? He was the big winner, but he did not want to fight Dalton, aka Jake Gyllenhaal, when he entered that ring based off of reputation alone. Right? He's like, nah, I ain't fighting that dude. We didn't know the audience. We didn't know what was going on. But we seen
Exactly.
him, brawl bare knuckle, and all of a sudden Jake Gyllenhaal comes in, takes his shirt off, and it's a wrap. I was super intrigued, like I said, because I didn't know where this story was going. And you see a guy even come stab him for losing him $500, and he's so calm.
Yeah. Yeah, he has that simmering rage, right?
Or
Going on.
it's just
Or
like, yeah, like
depression.
it's just like,
Yeah.
bro, are you crazy? Like somebody stabbed you, and,
Yeah.
instead of like getting upset, you're like, do you really know what you're doing? Like it was almost Jokerish. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know how else to describe it. It was
Yeah.
sinister. It was a little. One could say it felt a little sinister.
Yeah. That's why I didn't enjoy this movie that much because I could not put my finger on him. Like, again, did he not have a sense of humor? Obviously, he was depressed. I think we got that after a while, but ultimately, I just couldn't figure him out. I also wanted to know when it came to Post Malone, I was like, so you have all these face tattoos, but barely any tattoos on your back. I mean, I assume you just didn't have any more places. You know what I mean?
It was a choice, Delora. It was a choice.
Obviously, yes.
So, as we mentioned, the physical transformation Jake Gyllenhaal went through for this was nice. It's literally the front picture of the rap article that I had up reading that it was historical. Shirt off, body, yaddy, yaddy. Good job. Frankie, who'd originally come looking for Post Malone's character, recruits Dalton instead to come work for her at the Roadhouse in the Florida Keys. $5,000 a week for a month. I said, man, what kind of trouble are you in and how much money do you make that you could just pay somebody 20 grand in a month?
Girl, that's a lot of money.
Uh-huh.
That's a lot of money.
In cash. Did you think that Dalton was suicidal or just an adrenaline junkie when he was sitting in his car on the railroad tracks?
Uh, the former, I thought he was suicidal for sure. And for me, as an audience member watching this film, I am sitting there wondering what happened. Like, what happened in your life that has made you so closed off to everything? Again, it's not normal getting stabbed randomly and just taking it like it's a nudge on the chin. So I'm like, he must be already dead inside in so many ways. You know
Mm.
what I mean?
And for $500, bro, like, do better. Um,
But the fact that his calm scared that dude off said a lot.
Correct. I didn't know how to take it. I thought maybe he's just an adrenaline junkie because again, you're a fighter. So it's like, maybe this is just how you get your kicks. You know what I'm saying? I still couldn't call it even then. I was like, something is off, but I don't quite know what yet. So when he goes down to Florida, because he decides to take the gig, caveat, I went to Key West once, didn't love it. But it's a nice backdrop for the picture. Dalton meets some locals like bookstore owners Charlie and her dad Steven. One could say they were the heart of this film and kind of like almost his moral compass, I guess, a little bit in
Mm.
terms of showing a softer side to Dalton.
Mm-hmm.
During the day, you have the beauty of the ocean and the palm trees, but looks can be deceiving because he came into the row house and was like, "Oh, you have such a nice place here. It's so peaceful." By the night, a complete shit show, Delora. I have no idea how they actually got talent to perform, given that they had to be behind a cage and patrons threw bottles and stuff at them.
Ashley, When I was watching this movie and we saw the multiple scenes of the shit show that happens in the evenings, I was like, is there a spirit on this land? Like, does she need to sage? Because something ain't right in this place. Like, somebody needs some holy oil and some prayer because this type of violence, consistent violence,
Yeah.
seems off to me.
Yeah. Like we go out, we have drinks and stuff. I've never seen this level of like bar fighting and just disgruntled customers and just people having something they obviously need to get off their chest.
And the fact that the band just kept playing, I was like, they got the band behind in a cage.
Yes.
What?
She must be paying them 20K a night because I just don't.
What
Ain't no
also
way.
is funny is for the young black man artist, he's a real artist. That's Braylon. Honestly, he would have been one of the people I thought Beyonce was going to have on her album. Uh,
Mm.
he has several hits on the country station, Young Black Man, and he has a record with Keith Urban. Oh, that's sorry. Side note, that's the one thing I forgot to mention in our previous discussion. It's like people who are anti Cowboy Carter fascinates me because I'm like, y'all gonna let this white man with blonde tips from Australia sing country, but a woman actually from Texas can't perform this genre of music.
I am deceased. You know, it's racism. We know what it is. It's racism.
Yeah.
What did you think when we finally got to see Dalton in a fight, right? This biker gang comes in so disrespectful. And he's like, yo, where's the nearest hospital? Because y'all gonna need it. And then proceeds to, after he beats them down, first slaps them. That was the thing that got me. When he slapped the shit out of every one of them to start the fight, I said, oh, we are wholly unserious. And then takes them all in Frankie's car to the hospital.
Well, to me, it spoke to his character. It spoke to like, yes, my hands are weapons, and I choose not to use them unless provoked, and even provoked to a serious degree. Right? It's not his first option, but I felt like it was one of those things where I told y'all not to mess with me, and y'all proceeded anyway, and now I got to drive y'all asses to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what I mean?
And they were just such bullies. Like, why are you even coming in here starting to break stuff? And, you know, it just felt so unnecessary. So it was like, whatever happens to y'all, whatever he breaks, it's obviously well-deserved. And I was quite satisfied. I was like, oh, this is the level that we get with Dalton. Okay, imagine we can do one-on-one if he does this to a group. So I was impressed. Introduce the love interest, Dr. Ellie. Did you enjoy their medical meet cute?
Was there chemistry?
You tell me, boo.
Again, I didn't see it.
You didn't feel it.
I didn't feel it. How about that?
They looked good together, but was there some sizzle? No, because he gave that same smile to everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like there was no flirtation there was no like extra glint in the eye because you're meeting this beautiful doctor. And in the original, she was a doctor as well, and he met her after a fight, but the chemistry was chemistry and probably a little bit more in the original. But I mean, again, they both good looking, so I get it. Made sense. Under Dalton's guidance, seemed like things were looking up at the Roadhouse. He was getting things under control. He was even mentoring a couple of the guys. But Delora, this is not just some random occurrences that are happening here. This terror is strategic, right? Yeah. The quote unquote boss, Ben Brandt, who these biker bullies work for, is after the Roadhouse for business. He wants to build a resort. And his daddy, who is the real boss, is in prison. So Ben has a chip on his shoulder and a point to prove. What was your thoughts when we get introduced to Ben? You know, he's on the boat trying to get a shave for some reason on them choppy waters. Tell me your thoughts when we met him.
He was just one big wealthy doofus. Like I felt like what idiot tries to get a razor shave on a boat, talking
Girl.
about the captain told me it's smooth sailing. Do you have eyes?
And just keep your wrists loose. Like he could have now granted, thankfully he didn't have anything against him because he could have slit his neck so easily, slit his
Easy,
throat so easy.
easy. Thinking of my favorite straight edge shaving scenes is the original Color Purple. The way my anxiety was on 10 when Celie was like shaving so close to that Adam's apple. I'm like, Celie, you just needed to just like
Girl.
Mister was the devil. Yeah, I just thought he was a doofus. It was like the blind leading the blind. Like all his guys were muscle literally with no brains. And he was the head of the operation and he didn't have much brains either.
Mm-mm. The head biker dude, Dale, tries to kill Dalton. This is one of the scenes you were referencing earlier about the car shot where it literally tried to run him off the side of the highway.
Yeah.
And then like he ended up getting eaten by a crocodile when he came over to try to get him in the houseboat he was living on.
You
Those
play
Florida
stupid games,
you win stupid prizes.
prizes.
Those Florida Crocs ain't no joke. I've thankfully not encountered a gator or a croc, but Crocs are seem a little crazier. I didn't know to think about them hiding their food and all that. I said, y'all teaching me something today.
Well, I completely forgot about that too. So when I saw him in the water, and I didn't know if Jake's character was in on it, and obviously he wasn't once we realized he was really going to try to help the guy up. But I was just like, that's what you get. Like,
oh yeah, I had no remorse. I mean, obviously, it was kill or be killed, right? So what do you want me to do?
right.
Once we find out about this whole business scheme and situation, Dalton asks Frankie what's really good and she lies to him. Was Frankie wrong for not telling him the whole story before she lured him to work for her?
He didn't ask questions.
So it's his fault.
Their conversation seemed to be relatively quick. I need for you to be a bodyguard at my bar. 5,000 a week. No, I'm good. Then you come back. Yeah, let's do it. There was no conversation. There was like no gauging of the need for security that costs that much on a weekly basis.
Yeah. The cost alone, I was like, that was a big red flag that your life is going to be
Yes.
in danger. I don't know how much anyone charges. Like, I don't know how much bouncers charge at clubs, but I imagine they don't make 5K. I imagine they don't make 5K.
Exactly.
So, Ben's dad called his henchman, Knox, here comes Conor freaking McGregor, to clean things up in Florida. What did you think of his introduction and performance when you see him strutting his ass out in Italy, had some type of an affair, and then went and took a jacket off of a random man and burned down a property of someone in the town?
I was like, oh, he's manic and not to be played with in terms of he's one of those henchmen that would laugh if you stabbed him type of deal. Like, you know what I mean? I was like, why is he walking like that? And he has a great ass.
Exactly. It was the strut for me. It was that strut. I said, I got to watch Conor McGregor in real life now. Is that how he walks?
And then it was like, oh, he's retired. Okay. And he is thicker than what he was when he was, at the height of his career. But yeah.
I feel like they immediately established him as being cuckoo for fucking Cocoa Puffs. That's for sure. and then mirroring Dalton in this goofy smile that they both seemingly always keep on their faces. So I was like, oh, I guess we're doing a little bit of mirroring between our good guy and bad guy in their behavior a little bit in the movie. In this town it was Glass Key specifically that he was in the Florida Keys, even the cops are corrupt, including the sheriff, Big Dick, who threatens Dalton to get out of town. And it turns out the sheriff is Dr. Ellie's father. I just put complicated in my notes because once he went out on his little date, he's attracted to her, what have you. Once you find out she's the sheriff's daughter and your life is being threatened, I guess the relationship is over or not.
It really depends on how deep that love is, okay?
I don't know if it's love just yet, but I guess
I don't think
how
so
how
either.
high is his threshold for potential BS that he's coming up against?
One of my favorite romance novels that I've read recently was about a woman getting with her ex-fiance's brother. And so
I,
love will overcome.
I always hate the sibling love triangles.
Yeah,
I
no, I get
hate
it.
them.
Yeah.
There's a show on Netflix called The Walters
Yeah.
Boys, whatever.
Is their competition to
I made it all the
uh
way to the end of that series and I said, you know what? I'm done with y'all. Like, I hate
so how
this.
does it compare to The Summer I Got Pretty then?
I hated that as well, but I had
Yeah.
already read the books.
Oh,
So
okay.
I just wanted to see how they did it for the show, Team
Yeah.
Jeremiah till the day I die. But with the Walters boys, I had nothing to warm me up to what was going to
Mm,
happen. And so I'm like, why do we keep having to do this? Especially older brother who I look up to, and then the
yeah.
younger brother who's insecure but
Yeah.
loves her. Like,
Yeah.
I'm so tired of this.
But to be fair, in the book that I'm referring to, there was no real competition because the younger brother dumped her. So she was like left
Oh.
out in the streets or whatever. And the older brother didn't have any pining for her necessarily. I don't know. Anyway, I'm teasing to say, like, love can overcome many things, Ashley. So if he
And
really wanted to work, it could work, but Dada is not going to be invited to Thanksgiving dinner.
not Dada. You notice how love can overcome anything when people are dating, but in marriage, love is not enough. You ever notice that? Have you ever noticed that?
We talked about this. You can't be marrying anybody. You can't do life with just any old body, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like when we date, no, I can tolerate a lot of things, but we married, no. Divorce. It's
Well,
over.
you hear about the statistic of like whenever a woman gets sick, the man is more likely to leave than vice versa.
Yikes. Scary.
Awful, but this is the world we live in.
Yeah. Well, thankfully this film ain't that deep and they loved and seen that eternal. So we can move on.
but for literary purposes, this is referred to as in some ways a forbidden love.
Mm.
Yeah.
So Ben Brandt finally makes his grand appearance to meet Dalton at the Roadhouse, and we get a chance to see what earned Dalton his reputation. So he was a UFC fighter, and in one of his fights, he killed his opponent, who was actually a friend of his.
So I was unclear on, like, did his friend die or is he
Yes,
just critically injured?
he
But
is dead.
oh my gosh.
He is
Wow.
dead. So that's why we see him having nightmares about this fight. That's
Yeah,
why no one wanted to take him on, because if he could do that to someone who is a friend of his, what is he going to do to you?
exactly. But that's just such a dangerous sport anyway. I personally do not have enough testosterone to appreciate that sport.
Yeah,
So it's not for me. But
just very
what
bloody
do you
and
expect from
mm.
men who are hyped up like that? You know what I mean? Like, it's a risk. That's all I'm saying.
And it definitely explained why he felt like he needed to keep his distance, right? And keep himself under
Yes.
control, because we didn't really get a time frame. We don't know how long it's been
Yeah,
since
right.
this fight happened to today.
I imagine not far because his body is still in banging shape.
It looks
So,
good. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I absolutely hated the fights between Knox and Dalton. Again, speaking to the violence that we end up getting. Only time we actually really saw Dalton like out of control in a fight or losing it all was against Knox. And these fights were so brutal that in real life, in an article I read, I think it was via People, they landed a few of those punches.
Oh, probably. I can see
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Dalton was ready to leave town. He was through with it all until he saw what Brand's guys did to Charlie and her dad in their bookstore. This story turns into revenge and fights to the death. Ultimately, Dalton helps Ellie, who had been kidnapped, and saves the Roadhouse. But he decides to leave town anyway to wrap the movie because there were some dead bodies on the scene.
Well, it's funny that you say that because I was unclear on the state of his friend. I just knew what he did was really, really bad. I was like, oh, he out here killing folks. And I'm like, especially when he kept the one body, I'm like, why is he keeping this body? Better give it to the gators. But of course it was for a setup. So
Yeah, it was all strategic. I mean, he said when he was about to leave, he said, Frankie was like, "Are you that scared?" He was like, "Yes, I am actually, more than you can imagine." So as an audience member, you're thinking, "Oh, he's afraid because now, he's fought Knox and seems like things are getting out of control for him, whatever." No, he was afraid of what he does when someone really gets him angry. That's what he said. He said, it takes a lot to get me angry, but when I get there, uh, it's really ugly. So the
I get
ending
that.
was very brutal. I fast forwarded through the second time. I didn't even sit through it, if I'm honest with y'all. But in the post-credit scene, we see Knox actually survive. Do you think they're gonna do a sequel?
Sure. With these numbers, I'm sure they'll figure something out.
What did you think of ultimately the action that we got in the wrap up of Roadhouse?
I feel like the action that you refer to is why people came to watch it, honestly. Like it's an action film and what's different is it is fisticuffs, right? And not shoot 'em up.
Yes. Yes. They
And
homage to the first one again with the so many knives. Everybody got a switchblade.
I really did appreciate Connor's character though in his manicness, but this is what he's done. This is what he had been doing for years, and to put that on the big screen, it was fun. It was fun, but with some of the violence, though, it happened so quickly. I was like, "What happened?" Like the way that Connor's character ultimately killed Bennett. I was like, "Oh, okay." Like we just gonna take him out like that? No explanation. Was that supposed to be, you know, on the roster? Is that what his daddy's paying you for? So yeah, that's all I got, Ashley.
All right. Any other final thoughts you want to share?
It was good to see Jessica Williams in a
I
role.
love Jessica.
And I'm like, oh, she's such an adult now. Like I granted, she's not that far younger than me at all. But I remember her being the young person on the Daily Show. And so she's out here having a career and stuff.
Mhm. I love her. I liked the actual original film's ending better than this ending. That's probably the one thing that I enjoyed better. I feel like in the end, it was more satisfying in the original because all the business owners of the town were able to get revenge. And
Mhm.
based on how the business owners were done, both in this film and the original, it felt very crucial to have that element in the story. And then Patrick Swayze stayed. He didn't have to go. So he stayed. He got the girl. He was able to live his life. One wonders when this ended, what's Jake Gyllenhaal about to go do now?
And did he take a couple of stacks with him? I need to know. I hope he did.
I hope he's going to be all right. Like, y'all brought him to this town. He got banged up. He killed a few people and then he left. Like, is he going to be okay?
Right.
One can only hope. So it was a little less resolution than I would have liked. But like I said, overall, especially my first watch, I enjoyed the ride. I really wanted to know where we were going to go. And I appreciate y'all for this effort. So that is it. That is all for our recap of the 2024 remake of Roadhouse. Time to move on to Hidden Gems. Delora, what do you have for the week?
All right, Ashley. Since I've been completely engrossed in Cowboy Carter. One of my favorite online accounts called Yams. It's like a hub of all things music. They're really great at featuring and centering indie artists. They have a playlist that's available on all of the major streaming services. And the one that I have now is it's all country. It's all curated with these up and coming black country artists, along with songs from Cowboy Carter. And it's a vibe. The description of this playlist is called Yams and is known as Yams the Playlist. Tastefully curated vibes for the love of R&B, refreshed often. And then on the cover now is Beyonce, and it's all Tanner Adele, Raina Roberts, Shabuzi, Willie Jones, Brittany Spencer, Tyra Kennedy, K. Michelle, because you can't forget she was trying to bust out. Everybody was looking at her sideways when she was like, "I want to do country," and with her accent, we all know she's from the South. Uh, so shout out to Yams. It's actually created by one of our friends that we met at Essence. So shout out to Dante.
Very nice. So for the first week, I think ever, I don't have any hidden gems. I have pretty much been rewatching things that I've already been watching. I think, well, I know Loop season 2 just dropped their first couple episodes on Apple TV. So
Nice.
we recapped that. So I would definitely be checking that out. But otherwise, yeah, I'm sorry. For once, there is nothing for me to recommend to you guys, but I'm sure there's plenty out there. So happy watching, happy listening. I'll be back with more on the next read.
I mean, it's all good. It's all good, Ashley.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll be like, okay, what's new to me? What's hidden? Because
Yeah.
sometimes our hidden gems are hidden. And this one I was like, I don't think people know enough about this. Let's talk about yams.
Yeah. Well, we'll be back with more, obviously, guys, as always. Thank you so much for listening. Please share this episode rather with your friends, family, loved ones, everyone. We appreciate it. We'll be back with more in these pop culture streets. But in the meantime, be blessed.
Bye.